Hello, BookTube. It's Thursday, and you're wearing foam restraints, and I have a Q-tip and a quart of orange juice, and that means it's time for TBR-Torture. I have 6 books I want to parade in front of you, one of which I have already read, but I'm rejoicing. I will be happy to read it again. And the others are all new to me, and we shall see what we see. The first one is a romance. It's a Regency romance, and it's the first in a new series by an author I love. The author is Sabrina Jeffries, and the book is Project Duchess, which Zebra Historical Romance did not send me. I bought it in a bookstore, like a common bridge troll. And it's the story, the standard Regency story of two people who do not think they have any time or inclination for romance, and who fall into each other's arms and find that they do. And the first in the series is a little bit, the premise of the series is a little bit strange. It's totally winning. And it springs from one woman, Lydia Fletcher, who has, well, let me read you. There's a mock newspaper article at the beginning that gives you a thumbnail of how many books are going to come out of this series. As promised, dear readers, we have made haste to bring you the latest on Deet, and most startling in what it is indeed. The former Lydia Fletcher now has the dubious distinction of having been wed and widowed by 3 dukes. The 4th Duke of Greycourt, the 2nd Duke of Thornstock, and the newly deceased 3rd Duke of Armitage. She has also managed to bear each an heir, and in one case even an heir and a spare. It must be said, with mixed results. While her son Fletcher Pride, the 5th Duke of Greycourt, has increased his father's wealth tenfold, he is also rumored to run a secret cabal of licentious bachelors. Given the reserve of this gentleman, one could hardly imagine anyone less disposed to such purposeless behavior, but then, as is often observed, still waters do run deep. One might easily believe such a rumor of her second son, Marlowe Drake, the 3rd Duke of Thornstock, who, it is said, has never danced with a light skirt he didn't like. His twin sister, Lady Gwyn, newly arrived in London, promises to make such behavior more difficult by forcing him to ride herd on her own suitors. Her first season should prove most interesting, and yours truly will be observing with such rapt attention. Finally, we come to Sheridan Wolfe, the 4th Duke of Armitage, who has spent most of his life in Prussia, where his late father was ambassador. He's the dark horse of the family, unfamiliar to many in society, though he will probably have no trouble finding an heiress willing to exchange her dowry for the rarefied title of Duchess. If she does, she'd best bear him an heir and a spare forthwith, since his younger brother, Colonel Lord Heywood Wolfe, is waiting in wings for his chance at the title. So you see right there. I mean, this is the story of Fletcher Pride, the 5th Duke of Greycourt, and the woman who directs the funeral services of his stepfather. But you can see from that premise that there are many love stories to come out of this. The series is called Duke Dynasty, and I'm on board for the whole thing. Sabrina Jeffries has never let me down. But I'll be reading this one soon. These are all on the docket immediately. And the next one is the one that I have already read. This is new in paperback, I think, this week. It's utterly delightful. It's Happily Ever Esther. Those of you who recognize that face will know exactly what the book is about. Maybe some of you don't. This is Esther the Wonder Pig. A young couple, adopted her, thinking that she was one of those miniature pigs, those little mini pigs that were briefly faddish as pets. But it turns out that the seller was wrong, or was duplicitous, and that she was a 650-pound industry hog, someone who under ordinary circumstances in the meat farming industry would be meant for short life and then a slaughter. And by the time they're in an apartment in the city when this happens, and by the time Esther is clearly bigger and heavier than any dog breed could possibly be, they have not only fallen in love with her, but they've learned that she loves them and that she's a person. This is all from, they have a YouTube channel that is utterly enchanting, and they also have a book, Esther the Wonder Pig. And I loved watching the YouTube channel, and I loved reading the first book, because I know this to be true. I know this personally, from personal experience, that when you meet these people, when you hang out with them, you see immediately that they have moods and personalities and a sense of humor and boundless affection and a great deal of what's the word? Self-criticism, self-awareness. They're wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And Esther is no exception, but she does become too big to keep in an apartment, so they get a farm. The two men buy a farm, and they figure it'll be a place where she can have room and comfort and ease and a lot of outside time. And then they decide to make it into a sanctuary for other animals. And they learn in classic memoir fashion all the stuff that goes into farming. It's not as easy as it might have looked on paper. And this is the story of that sanctuary. And it is touching and warm and funny. And now it's out in a trade paperback. Does this tell me when? Does this tell me when this comes out? Yeah, July 9th. So this is out already in paperback. I strongly recommend this book and its predecessor. I also recommend their channel. And I also want to second their advice. They never stop giving this piece of advice, and it's worth repeating, and that is double and triple check. If you are getting some sort of exotic animal as a pet, especially something that under some circumstances can grow to enormous size, double and triple check. Because as these two point out, what are their names? I should tell you their names, shouldn't I? Steve Jenkins and Derek Walter. I should point, as they point out, not everyone is going to be lucky enough to do what they did. So, double and triple check. Esther's story could easily have been a tragedy. But then the next one is a paperback. This comes out in July, I believe. Oh no, early August. Too fascinating for me to pass up. This is Our Women on the Ground. And this is Arab world reporting by women, which is, still predominantly something we don't see, and all the more fascinating for that. I can't wait to see. I can only imagine the raw courage it must have taken to write any of these essays. I can't wait to read them all. They're by authors that there's a whole list of them here. I don't know any of these people. Don't know any of their writing styles, and they probably have other things that they've written. So this is going to be a doorway into a whole new realm of reading. That is wonderful. Then the next one is science fiction. It's alternate reality science fiction. Uh-oh. That's the mail. We're going to ignore that. We're going to bully right along here. This is by Raymond Khoury. I don't have any cover art for you. But this is called Empire of Lies. It's Raymond Khoury, Empire of Lies. And the story is, the pub sheet, the background material is comparing it to something like The Man in the High Castle. In other words, an alternate history that's centuries old, or that's decades old, and that shows what might have been. And in this case, it's not the Nazis, it's radical Islam, it's militant Islam. So the back cover, I'll read you that, because I don't have a sheet. Oh, no, I do have a sheet for it. I don't have any cover image to show you. The cover copy starts off with Istanbul, 1683. Mehmed IV, Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, is preparing to lay siege to Vienna, capital city of the Holy Roman Empire, when a mysterious visitor arrives in his bedroom. Naked, covered in strange tattoos, to deliver a dangerous, world-changing message. And then we jump to Paris, 2017. Ottoman flags have been flying over the great city for 300 years, ever since its fall, along with all of Europe, to the empire's all-conquering army. Notre Dame has been named the Fatih Mosque. Public squares are segregated by gender, and Kamal Arslan Aga, a fated officer in the Sultan's secret police, is starting to question his orders. With books like this, The Man in the High Castle, A Fatherland, there's always someone. The central character is always wondering not only whether or not his given reality, in this case a world conquered by Islam, is right in terms of good versus evil, but also starting to wonder whether it's right in terms of should this have happened? Is this in fact an alternate universe? So although this isn't much to look at, this comes out in October, but that premise is just too good for me to ignore. And then the next book is nonfiction, but it's connected to that last book. It is the seedbed for a what if like that one. And it's by Mike Giglio, who is a reporter, a writer for The Atlantic, and also a very intrepid on-the-ground reporter, like those women in the previous anthology. This is Shatter the Nations, ISIS and the War of the Caliphate. And that's what this is all about. The battle to defeat ISIS was an unremittingly brutal and dystopian struggle. A multi-sided war of gritty local commandos and militias. Mike Giglio takes readers to the heart of this shifting, uncertain conflict, capturing the essence of a modern war. At its peak, ISIS controlled a self-styled caliphate that was larger in size than Great Britain, with a population cast into servitude that numbered in the millions. Its territory spread across Iraq and Syria as its influence stretched throughout the wider world. And this tells the story of that caliphate and the defeats that it has suffered in recent years. And this is due also in October, but I don't think I can wait. And it's now the second week in July, so I'm feeling a little bit less stricture about starting to range ahead and see what the autumn's books are like. And that's one that it won't take more than an hour to do, so I will definitely get to it. And then this last one on this Thursday, TBR-Torture, had me smiling because it reminded me of something that I say on this channel all the time, which is that no matter what it is, whether it's a new book, whether it's a foreign author, whether it's a particular fad of a subject, whether it's an old book, the new book world largely supplies my wants. It largely does. It used to be that it didn't. It used to be that I would get a handful of new books a week, and all the rest of the stuff I would get would be the delightful hunting in used bookstores that we all do. I happen to have a few good used bookstores here in Boston that are always supplying that kind of hunting. But as my reading has shifted to mostly new releases, I have gradually learned that the new release world has enough variety in it to take the place of that. It's kind of a weird feeling. It hasn't completely happened. I don't want to say that I don't go used book hunting anymore. But you'd see it on this channel if I did, and you can see that I don't as often as I used to. I had a Q&A on this channel just recently, and somebody asked me about an author, Javier Marias. They asked me, what do you think of him? What do you think of his writing? And that immediately made me think of the books of his that I used to stock in bookstores, the books of his that I know. And I thought, well, I don't have any Marias here at Hyde Cottage. But the fact that one of you would ask me, what do you think, made me think, okay, well, what do you think? It's been a while since you thought of that author or read that author. Maybe you should revisit. I get as many tips from you people as you get from me. So I thought about that, and I thought, well, I guess you could swing by the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston, see if they have a Marias. And sure enough, the publishing industry provided. This is Barta Isla, a new translation. I think the translation in this is 2019, but I think the book is 2017 or 2018. This is a fairly recent thing from this author. Oh my, all right, you're not really telling me. Not really telling me. The translation was 2018. Okay, no, the book was written in 2017. And this is, let me see here, a gripping new novel of intrigue and missed chances from the award-winning, internationally best-selling Spanish writer. When Berta Isla was a schoolgirl, she decided she would marry Tomás Nevinson, a dashing, half-Spanish, half-English boy in her class with an extraordinary gift for languages. But when Tomás returns to Madrid from his studies at Oxford, he is a changed man. Unbeknownst to her, he has been approached by an agent for the British intelligence services, and he has unwittingly set in motion events that will derail forever the life they had planned. And so there you go. I don't need to go anywhere. I just have to wait until my doorbell rings. I just have to wait, and sooner or later I will get all the stuff that I want. I don't know how to think about that quite yet. I love the thrill of going into a used bookstore, especially a really well-stocked one like the Brattle Bookshop, and I love the thrill of the serendipity, the thrill of the hunt, the same as all the rest of you do. It'd be kind of melancholy to think that was largely gone, but anyway, that's a nice Thursday TBR torture for you. So we have the new in English Javier Marias. As far as I know, the latest English translation of Javier Marias. And who is this anyway? This is Knopf. They have the deckled edges. A nice solid book. Then Shatter the Nations, a story not only of the rise of ISIS and the caliphate, but also of its fall. Then we have Empire of Lies by Raymond Khoury. This is an alternate history in which another caliphate is actually successful in conquering most of the world. Then we have Our Women on the Ground, essays by Arab women reporting from the Arab world. And then we have Happily Ever Esther, now in paperback in your bookstores, the story of two young guys who take on more than they know when they try to start a farm in order to give their beloved pig a place to live in Rome. And lastly, Project Duchess by Sabrina Jeffries, a new Regency romance and the start of what sounds like an absolutely winning Regency series. So, although if I were the main woman in this book, not the main character of the romance, but the main character of the series, I would probably not marry any more dukes. I think by the third one, you're probably doing them a favor. You're probably cursed, but we shall see. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, and of course I'm going to put on pants and go to the door because there's more stuff to haul in. If it's a lot, we'll go through it together. So I'll wrap this up, but I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.